I'm the dad. I get to vent my meditations to you. In Job 31 in the Living Bible, I would encourage you to also read, if you are a man of God, reads Job 29. It was a leadership responsibility that Job had as a man of God in his city. Let me make this statement. One of the things I don't like in the Living Bible is the tendency to also include brothers and sisters, while the King James has no indication toward it, or men and women. It almost like it works hard to make it. This is how you can fix that. What gender is peace, for example? What gender is love? If the Bible uses man in an eternal value, he's not dealing with either gender. He's dealing with Christ likeness. But what we let these, people that feel entitled, I mean, whether we're a man or a woman, we don't deserve anything. If God has a principle that relates to a man, he wants to use a man as an example, then that's what he's done. You don't have to try to be accepted. You've already been accepted in the place where it counts most. That's the heavenlies. Hugely important. And God can use any woman to do anything he's called her to do. And you may be a woman but have a primary ministry to men. Why? Because it's Christ in you doing it. Don't get lost with that. That's why Paul says that in Christ there's neither male nor female, Jew nor Gentile. He's talking about transcendence. Glory to God. And Jesus didn't die as a woman. He died as a man. But he didn't say it was just for men. Don't get caught up in it. There's a lot of things that you could easily get offended by in the Bible that relates to what he called men to do and not women. And there are some denominations that has it wrong about certain things and abilities that they could do as a Christian. They got it wrong because Christ in them is doing the work, no matter what the gender. I hope that helps you. So in Job 31, I'd like to encourage you toward my book, Women Are Kingmakers. I'm thinking almost about doing a 2 version of it. I have a lot more, every book, of course, that I didn't say, that's in the Bible, that could be helpful, especially in these days. Look, Job 31:1. Look, he says, I made a covenant with my eyes, not to look with lust at a young woman. Now, for that reason, look, no matter how much clothes these women take off in front of men on these television sets, on movies or whatever, he didn't say, I don't look at women. He says, I don't look at them with lust. You can't avoid all of that. Women taking off their clothes and naked. There's something about this guy, Kanye West, now. It's on Google. You go to Google. I'm looking at basketball scores, but they have advertisement on the advertisement. It shows Kanye West and his wife, new wife, with plastic over her, and she has no clothes on up under. Now, I don't know what's with that, but I ain't lusting after her. I don't know why he does it or why she allows it. I don't know. But I do know this. I made a covenant with God with my eyes, and not to look at a young woman with lust. I believe that the average man has to work on that because there is a proliferation on an amazing scale of pornography and a push toward sex is so, I told you last week about a young man that says he can't find a wife because most of the women he knows have been run through. Yeah. I've counseled with women who told me they don't enjoy having sex with their husband. Well, you think that God made that a highlight in marriage? The sex part of it? You think you think sex, physical sex, is better than the quality of trust? You think sex is better than faithfulness? Or the glory that comes from prayer where God really is reached? Let me make this statement. I've made it before, but let me make it again. The one that created sex is better than sex. Faith is way better than sex. Love is better than sex. Because, you understand, because what's in your heart in the eternal dimension is the permanent dimension. The covenant with your eyes is better than how a woman would look anyway with her clothes off. I mean, there got to be something impure about her to have her clothes off for everyone to see. So yeah, not only she can have her clothes on and promote her body. I was in a restaurant, and it just blows my mind how a woman had so much addition to the backside that I would have loved to have just said, can I talk to you about it? Why? Not to criticize her, but to give her a more eternal view of life, a balanced view, that to attract men towards your body parts is not a permanent quality. You're not going to have it forever. But I tell you what, you can have love forever, you can have peace forever, you can have joy forever. See? Yeah. Because those are eternal qualities. Have you made that covenant with God? I'm talking about men and women. You see, Job makes the statement, but it's one of those transcendent qualities. Now, some ladies said, "Oh, I don't be looking at men anyway." Well, you don't have the issue then. Your covenant is already intact, but you could have been raised in a way that knows it's wrong, but you never made a covenant with God about it. I don't care who you are, how old, or how beautiful or ugly. The devil knows how to give you an attraction that leads towards sin. So humble yourself. Nothing wrong with covenanting with God toward good. Job did it. He says in verse 2 of chapter 31 of Job, what is our inheritance, this to be, from the Almighty on high? Isn't that a good question? What is our inheritance from the Almighty on high? That's a good question. Well, it didn't tell you what it is. I have shared with you Matthew 19, where the Lord said, I'm going to give you thrones. You know, see, you're going to sit on thrones. I've given you that. I've told you that in Paul's death, his eulogy, he says there's a crown waiting for him and all those who love his appearing. There's a crown. So there's two things right there. See? John 14 says there's many, in my Father's house are many mansions. And people think that that's a physical house. And I'm just saying it's placement. You are growing into the responsibility that God can give you in the eternal world. You could be a janitor and yet be way more Christ-like than the company you're a janitor in. Or in a school, you're the janitor and the principal of the school. Both of you could be Christians, but you're way more Christ-like than even the principal. It's not based on position. See? What is your inheritance from the Almighty? It's something worth thinking about. But I think the emphasis shouldn't be on the physical, but the eternal. That's the qualities that you see Jesus had. Long suffering. See, though he were a son, yet learned he obedience. Learning obedience. See that? To what? To the voice of God. To the word of God. To leadership over you. Learn that. It has to be learned. I mean, I don't know of anybody who have come up to me and said, I just love being told what to do. I really feel joyful when I'm corrected. No. You got to grow in that. Because why? You not only want to do what's right, you want to be right. And that's what you're ordained to be, is like Christ. And that's the greatest likeness you could ever have. Look at verse 4. Doesn't he see everything I do and every step I take? Boy, if a person had a consciousness of that all the time, wouldn't that be a great consciousness to have? Like, look, I'm convicted in the prayer closet, not by something I've done or not done, but by the nature of my prayer time. Doesn't he see everything I do and every step I take? It seems as though that when I move toward God in consecration and being alone with him, that he meets me before I ever get to my destination. There's something about not going to a place where I can surrender, but it's like I'm enjoying cultivating aloneness with him. You see. And it's not a circumstantial surrender, but it could be. I don't believe that circumstances are the only means by which we seek after God. I believe there are some people that know their decline spiritually and their need spiritually. I'm telling you, I don't know if I know all of my need, but I guarantee you I have some. I'm not always satisfied with the fervency of my prayers, the crying out, the declarations, the decreeing. See? I don't always feel excited about the number of names on my prayer list. I don't know whether that's good or bad, but if I got it on the list and I have a list and it's long, so what? And that's a need for prayer for me. See? Doesn't he see everything I do and every step I take? There's a lot of things I could be perfected in. If you don't have any of those, maybe it's time for you just to go ahead to heaven then. Or that your example should revolutionize a continent. See? Verse 6 says, B, for he knows my integrity. Implicit in that is, or lack thereof. Previously I said, there are things to correct in your life, but the emphasis of God is what he's put in it, integrity. I have compared integrity, the breastplate of righteousness, Old Testament, the high priest, the Urim and Thummim. Yes, you can look it up. It should be inside. I compared accountability with integrity. Accountability is monitoring or being monitored by someone who sees what you do, and you stay in alignment because someone will see what you do. Integrity is what's growing in your heart. One, accountability is measuring the outside. Integrity is becoming godly on the inside. This is what you and I are called to. See? That no matter who's looking or what's going on, inside we're Christ-like. How does the Bible say? Say it in Colossians 1:27, Christ in you, the hope of glory. Oh yeah. Go ahead and cultivate your awesomeness. Sure. He knows, for he knows my integrity. Again, not everybody else don't necessarily know your integrity. Some people don't even believe you're a person of integrity. I see a lot of manipulation that go around in the culture. I know people that will get you and they got a one-ups on you and all of that. But what about your integrity? He knows your integrity. Look, keep it between you and God. If God knows your integrity and no one else does, you still should be okay. Because you could look like a person of integrity and not have any. I believe that's much of the world. They practice looking good on the outside. But Jesus has ordained you to be good on the inside. If you're going to practice anything, practice it from the inside out. Purify yourself from within. And then it'll just show on the outside. Verse 7. If I have strayed from his pathway, and here's what I underline, and if my heart has lusted for what my eyes have seen, look, or if I am guilty of any other sin, look at that. Man, Judge's pretty strong, Job. That's what he was saying. He's dealing with his insides and his outsides. That means that man, look, he had a passion to be godly. Do you know what? He had the wrong assessment of his circumstances also. Because it was God himself that said to Satan, have you seen my servant Job? God was seeing Job like what he was announcing there in verse 7 of Job 31. If my heart is lusted for what my eyes have seen, or if I am guilty for any other sin. I mean, it could be like you could lust after a house. You could lust after, shoes or position. And Job declared a penalty on himself. But then he gives you his perspective on it in verse 11. For lust is a shameful sin. Now, I don't know how many people think of lust as sin or know how to measure whether they desire something or is lusting after something. And it would be good for you to look it up, but lust becomes an inordinate priority. Desire, you could desire getting a college degree. See? Lust is in that category of envy, is what he's talking about. He's talking about something that is beyond the means of the created order or the creator. Let's get that right. He says it's sin. It's all right to inspect yourself, to say, are you lusting? And it could be in a lot of categories. Whatever that lust you have, where you know is wrong, is when it doesn't lead you to the approval of God or to Christ likeness. That's a communion time. If you judge yourselves, you'll not be judged. It's all right to do that. He says the crime that should be punished. Well, to be honest, Job didn't know everything about eternity, but it will be. So get any inordinate affection or lust out of your life. Look at verse 12. I got to shut it down now. I hate doing it because I'd love to go through this whole chapter with you. These are my underlinings. These are convictions, things that not just are preachable. These are things that are transformational for me. I'm sharing them with you. Verse 12 says, it is a fire that burns all the way to hell. It would wipe out everything I own. How do you know about hell, Job? Man, you're a contemporary of Abram, the Bible wasn't written yet. There was no text. I've explained that to you before. See, there's something about the created order. What in the early framers in the Declaration, and Jefferson and those guys in those times calls it the laws of God, the laws of nature, and of nature's God. Well, it's also in the first chapter of Romans. You can know there's a God by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead. How are you going to know the Godhead? There's an ability of God to give insight to his creation without a human context, without a human text, without it being written. Matter of fact, prophecy is given by God. It's not something that you read in the text. Jeremiah says, I understood by books, but numbers of things that Jeremiah said from God that didn't come from a book. His judgment of kings, his dealing with circumstance. God unveiled to him what it is. Is there unveiling in your life? I mean, are there things that God shows and tells you that you didn't read anywhere, or you didn't get it from listening to anyone? But God unveiled to you the reality of his world. Well, I believe that that's the way we should live. And maybe I can finish this next week. Maybe I'll finish it on the next broadcast. And I may even finish it right now with you and then continue it when we sign off for my next time with you. Well, I love you. You know I'm going to spend probably the next 2 weeks away. I know for sure 1 week someone was gracious enough to get me a hotel. Thank you, soldiers, for looking out for your bishop. And I want to thank all of you, there's some of you on the line who see me monthly. I don't preach every week. I don't even promote myself preaching every week. I don't ask for money, hardly ever, even on this broadcast. But thank you for being sensitive to me and helping me to promote the gospel of the kingdom and put the word out. Boy, isn't it needed now? I was talking to Gordon Robertson some weeks ago, and I said, I don't know, I think I might move to another country and see if I can't help the countries grow in God. And he said, we need you here. That made me pay attention to it. Look, the tendency would be, I don't know who would believe that. I know it's true generally. It may not be true specifically related to the people that know me and the people that I know. But I thank the Lord for you. I want to say to you, thank you for listening in, signing in, believing in me. And for whatever support God leads you to give me, thank you. Hey, I want to say this. Don't be afraid to take these things I've shared with you to God in prayer. Ask him to perfect you. None of us have arrived yet. All of us could go to God in prayer. Dismiss by your acknowledgement of behavior that is not acceptable in the heavenlies, and accept the behavior that's just like your daddy. Hey, I love you. God bless you. I want to at least say this to you. You be encouraged now. For the joy of the Lord is your strength. My Father, thank you for everyone under the sound of my voice. Those that love you. Those that didn't go to sleep on my message. Those that pay attention and have written down and taken notes, things that I've said that could help them in their walk with you. I bless them. I thank you for them. Cancel every assignment of the devil from your viewpoint, God. And then let them cancel every assignment of the devil from their viewpoint. And as your servant, I break every power of the enemy against these listening to me and those that will see this later. May God arise. May the enemy be scattered. In his name we